Hello and welcome to my presentation. I'm Sarah. Whether you're a fellow student, teacher, or just curious about the method and practices of teaching, it's great to have you with us. Hope you're well. Today, we're going to be looking at teaching the middle years, particularly instructional strategies that support differentiation. Differentiation is simply catering for individual students by tailoring the curriculum to suit their needs and make their schooling experience more engaging, more meaningful, and enjoyable for them. To start, I want you to look at this picture for a moment and see which of these characters you most identify with. Which activity looks the most enjoyable for you? You can see that they're all relaxing in their own ways, similar but different. Differentiation is along the same idea, just regarding learning, making sure that students are comfortable and happy, as this helps them to learn. Differentiation is particularly essential in middle school classrooms, as along with ranging in areas such as gender, class, cultural and linguistic backgrounds, and varying academic abilities, students are also navigating the physical, emotional, social, and cognitive changes that come with being a teenager. The middle years in this course, focusing on years 7 to 10, bring dynamic change and adaptation as students try to construct their own identity and find their place in their different contexts and in the wider world as they explore new places, concepts, and behaviours. Whilst this presents a range of challenges for all students at school, it's been found that those with specific learning needs are at greater risk of struggling with these significant psychological and physiological changes. These needs are grouped into three categories: students with identifiable disabilities and impairments, those with learning difficulties that are not attributable to a specific disability or impairment, and students who are disadvantaged due to environmental factors such as low socioeconomic status, home life and influence, and cultural or linguistic backgrounds. Low socioeconomic students have been shown to achieve lower than other students at school, often due to poor grades, low attendance, and disengagement in the classroom. However, engaging and connecting in students within this last category in order to give them a positive start to high school and adolescence can help to keep them on track both in life and at school. There are many reasons for students becoming disengaged from their schooling, such as feeling as though they don't matter or fit in. Differentiation can help avoid this disengagement, as it not only causes students to view their unique identity in a positive way, but by relating class content to their interests and encouraging collaboration with their peers, but it also shows the teacher's thoughtful care for and value of each class participant. This in turn has been shown to help maintain or even improve students' cognitive and emotional dimensions of well-being, which can have a significant positive effect on their learning outcomes. The way that students within these categories are viewed has changed over the years. Although a deficit view once caused students to be blamed for the challenges and obstacles that they faced, additional support mechanisms have now been implemented in schools, thus improving the students' contributions to class, the way they're viewed by peers and teachers, and thus their overall schooling experience. This idea stems from the idea that those with support needs are firstly and more importantly young adults, young adolescents with thoughts, feelings and goals like any other. They therefore need a developmentally appropriate curriculum to ensure their educational success, one that reinforces their assets, avoids assumptions and stereotypes, and focuses on positive attributes and emotions. Differentiated instruction stems from the idea that teachers cannot use a one-size-fits-all approach without marginalizing a large number of their students. Responding to students' needs by changing the pace, level, or type of instruction helps ensure that the content, process, products, and learning environment are responsive and relevant to students. I want you to consider this question for a few seconds and perhaps write your answer in the comments below. What's something that you enjoy doing, and what skills or knowledge has it provided you with? Whether it was a love of animals that caused you to endlessly read and research information about them, or improved your skills at playing a sport or a musical instrument, or something else, being interested in and invested in the topic probably made you more committed to learning about it and therefore enjoy it more. In a similar way, ensuring that lessons are purposeful, meaningful, and applicable to students promotes their success and assists them in becoming self-regulated, lifelong learners. Differentiated instruction is a student-centered approach of thinking about and planning instruction, pedagogy, and assessment in order to meet the needs of all students. These include different approaches to content, process, and product, a dynamic blend or range of whole class, small group, and individual instruction, as well as engagement of all students in respectful and challenging tasks. Teachers can differentiate in practice by adapting the content, what students should know, and the process, what they should be able to do. In a senior school English class, for example, this could be done by selecting novels that relate to the class's interests in the hope that they will enjoy and be motivated to participate in class activities. This would also increase their sense of belonging and ownership, causing them to be more willing to relate to each other, as well as collaborate and problem solve with each other. This will also encourage them to relate class concepts to broader community contexts and put their learning into action. Similarly, whilst a teacher may require the process of the whole class writing a research essay, but they could differentiate the product by giving students the option of creating a poster, an essay, or a presentation as assessment. This idea of presenting curriculum as a menu, giving students a choice, is explored by Joe Rule in his TED Talk, Teaching Methods for Inspiring the Students of the Future. And it also relates to Brenton Pross's mention of the importance of creative tasks, such as photo stories, podcasts, or claymations, in his text, Connecting Lives and Learning. In Joe Rule's presentation, he explains the learning process options he gives his students in his biology class, from watching a video tutorial and answering questions to doing a laboratory experiment or playing an educational board game, presenting a poem or a model about their research, and filling out a reflective sheet about their learning. He explains the benefit of using communication, critical thinking, and creativity in classroom tasks, in that students can have a choice, and this allows the teacher to become a guide, coach, or mentor, focusing on helping the students rather than simply instructing them. The learning environment of the classroom could also be differentiated by providing variety, for example, by displaying posters around the room, flexibility through whole group, small group, paired, or individual work, or through using a range of instructional methods, for example, written, spoken, or multimodal. Whilst differentiating the learning environment is left to the teacher's observation and judgment regarding their students' needs, it could also include a class culture that encourages sharing, comfortable trust, emotional connection, and supporting well-being. Exercise time. It's all right, I'm not going to make you actually do physical exercise, not love of the block or anything. But think of a lesson that you've had in the past, preferably at school, but maybe it was at university. I want you to jot down what you remember about the lesson and why you think certain elements of it were memorable. What were some of the learning needs that were likely being addressed? What were the learning outcomes? Did the starting point hook the students? Was it fun and exciting? How could this lesson be replicated or modified for different subjects or different classes? When I think back, I can remember several lessons where my teachers changed things up a bit. For example, starting the class by singing a song themselves, or perhaps playing a video of someone else singing a song before we analysed its lyrics in English poetry. This fun, unexpected introduction entertained and engaged the students in the lesson itself and helped us to remember the following content and learning outcomes. Another teacher sometimes incorporated the game Kahoot in class, showing a positive way to use technology in the classroom, along with adding a bit of novelty and humour to the lesson. Perhaps your teacher made it interesting through altering their role in the classroom, the way that the curriculum was presented, the associated assessment, and their perceptions of students, the way they treat your class members. Wait, is this part sounding familiar? It should. It's relating to the 4 elements introduced earlier: the content, process, product, and learning environment. A learner-centered paradigm requires these elements to be altered in order to change them from standardized to personalized education. Emphasizing unique attributes and competency was shown to increase self-direction and has gained momentum over time. Whilst it may require a little more time dedicated to planning, having engaging activities for the class to work on could result in there being less need for strict control and direction from the teacher during class time. But how can we most effectively plan and facilitate these lessons? The book Teaching the Middle Years by Pendergast, Main, and Barr encourages teachers to find the most suitable and beneficial methods of differentiation for their students by considering their goals for the class regarding the students' knowledge and skills. These funds of knowledge are coined by Pat Thompson as virtual school bags and refer to the knowledge that students already have from their life experience. This can assist the students when engaging with the subject, as teachers can design the framework of the lesson to support the students in reaching further aims to build on that knowledge. This idea is further investigated in Grant Wiggins' text, Understanding by Design, in which he addresses the idea of form before function, starting with an intended learning outcome and planning towards that by designing the class activities and exercises to help the students work towards it, and then planning the teacher's method of instruction to get them to that stage. Working backwards like this allows teachers to work on developing the phases of the lesson individually before bringing them together, similar to the pieces included in the simple art piece. Can you think of anything else we seem to do backwards? For example, some would consider that we eat pizza inside out, or perhaps if you have really knotty hair, you'll start at the bottom and work your way up. We might write an essay starting with the conclusion so we can get all our thoughts together, or a science report starting with the hypothesis, what we think will happen. It might seem a bit weird, but there is often a method or a reason to seemingly random things, and they make sense in context. In this text, Wiggins also gives the analogy of teachers being similar to computer software designers, being client-centered, or in our case, student-centered professionals trying to maximize user-friendliness and make learning effective, like computer software aims to make its users more productive. Similar to computer and other media developers being guided by codes, budgets, and aesthetics, teachers are constrained by school, state, and national standards, thus creating a framework for them to work within. School context also shapes or influences what pedagogical methods we implement in our classrooms, as we consider what would be appropriate and fitting regarding the class members, social situation, and broader socio-cultural climate. It is important to remember, whilst training our students to become effective learners and to be goal-oriented, knowledgeable, self-directed, and motivated, that we are the example of these things. We, as teachers, need to show deep engagement and caring about the development of, as well as result of, learning. Seeing the value in taking responsibility for and caring about the development of, and bringing energy to our own learning also demonstrates curiosity, attention, interest, optimism, and passion. Creative leadership and thinking outside the box are also hugely beneficial for our students. It's equally important to remember to allow extra time considering Brenton Pross's idea of bridging philosophy and realities in order to produce productive pedagogies. Teachers also need to reflect on their pedagogy after implementing it and look for ways to improve in order to benefit both their students as learners and their own professional practice. This can be done by assessing student engagement during class, for example, observing how focused they are during lesson time. This may be indicated by eye contact, by students taking notes, or simply following instructions. Engagement could also be measured when assessing the student's work or personal reflection regarding what they'd learnt at the end of the lesson. In conclusion, in order to differentiate content, process, and products of the student's learning, it is important to firstly determine the goal of the lesson and plan towards it, keeping in mind students' individual needs, passions, and interests. We can't necessarily change the student's circumstances or the structure or culture of the school, but we can influence class culture and engagement and inspire our students to become lifelong learners. Thank you for listening. Here's my references.